Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Astro Zombie here. I'm going to go over another build. Today we're going to go over the Temporal Escort. I don't see this ship around very often. Obviously it's reskinned to make it look like an old TOS ship, so yeah, that's that. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to what I've been doing with this build. Note the hull, 51k, so this is a really squishy escort. I am running the weekly combat buff, which is giving me an extra 20% to hull and a Cat 1 damage boost. So even still, it's sitting at 51k. Shields are quite squishy and stuff like that, and my resist are nowhere where I needed it to be. So that's why, instead of using a beta, I went ahead and popped an Omega 3 on here for the defense rating, more of a speed tanking solution. I believe that pops up to like around 120 or so. So I'm just zipping around, Borger missing me, etc., etc. But I am still debuffing with the cold-hearted trait and a little bit of debuff from the chemo-laced weaponry. And I like to keep my critical chance around 30. It's hard to do when you're fed, but yeah. And then we get critical severity. Again, stack it up as much as humanly possible. Here's just my basic stats, nothing crazy here. Alright, let's move on to weapons. These are from the K-13 fleet holding. They're pretty cheap and they're fun. You know, nothing like some blue phasers for if you're a TOS fanboy. And again, I stress this over and over again, please get this a deflector. You can get different variants of it for support your science builds, your torpedo builds, etc., etc. But what makes this is the 15% critical severity and the 4% critical chance based on your hull. Excellent, absolutely excellent. That's why I've been able to get such high critical chance and severity as of late. Still using the 2-piece Narkara. I'm using it for the 5% bonus energy weapon damage, which means it's a Cat 2. When usually something says bonus, it means Cat 2. The Fleet Warp Core for EPS. I explained it in my last video, but I'll go over it again. EPS is basically, your EPS is your power transfer rate. The higher that this number and stuff is, the higher the number is, the faster your weapon power is going to bounce back. As you're firing, you'll see this drop down. That pretty much dictates how quickly it's going to tick back up. The higher your weapon power, the more DPS you're going to be doing. Again, for the two-piece Nukar set. And the weapons are pretty much the same at the bottom. Now, the experimental flank shot artillery, you get that, I believe, from the competitive rep store. It's far better than the freebie one that they give you whenever you get this slot. You could reclaim a freebie one. I had it all the way upgraded to epic, and it was just absolute garbage. That, and I hated the animation, because on a ship this small, when it's firing, the beam that it fires is bigger than the ship itself, and it just looks absolutely ridiculous. Subspace Field Modulator, that's basically just a resist boost when my hull starts getting below 50%. And I'm going to stress this again, if you're not using batteries, you're doing something wrong. Now, these two pieces right here, the Point Defense Bombardment Warhead and the Dynamic Power Redistributor module, are pretty much a must-have on most builds nowadays, but the problem is they are pretty expensive. I'm going to go over, again, like I did in my last video, on consoles that you could use to supplement this if you cannot afford these. Same thing goes with these Lobi consoles. The Bioneural Infusion and the Natachio Kinetic Converter, they're Lobi, they're 200 Lobi a piece, very expensive and quite expensive to upgrade. And again, I'm going to go over here in a minute what you could use instead. Now, the Assimilated Module, basically using it for crit chance, crit severity, nothing else off of it. For power negating, most people put like the Kinetic Cunning Beam for the two-piece, which helps with your EPS basically. It's not 100% like that, but it just boosts your power. I don't know how I feel about this console. I like the 8% crit severity and the 12% direct energy damage. It's only Cat 1, but that's fine. The clicky on it, though, the Time Stream Rift Warhead, I'm not seeing big numbers out of it, so it's whatever. And then my standard 4 vulnerability locators for phasers. Now, I'm going to switch over briefly to the consoles that you can use if you can't afford those other consoles I showed you. You're going to use the 0 point for a bit more of critical chance, the Quantum Phase Converter, which is from a mission, and then the Proton Charge Launcher, and then the Mining Drill. You could buy these off the exchange for about 3 to 4 mil. And the reason why you want to use that is the two-piece bonus. The 25% kinetic damage for photons, and then the 25% phaser damage. Alright, let's move over to skills. This is my skill tree. I've been using it for the past 6 or so months, having no problem with it. I know there's some variations at other things that people do out there. I know if you're Romulan, you're going to want more, warp core power and things like that, so keep that in mind if you're a Romulan tune. Now, specializations, last time you saw me using Intel, but I went back to Temporal because of continuity. When my hull gets down below 10%, it gives me a heal, and then it warps me back 8 kilometers, kind of gets me out of the fray, and then, it's an oh crap button before my invincible trait kicks in. Most of these here are free traits, like this one right here. This is not a free trait, but you can buy it off the exchange pretty cheap. I believe it's like 1 or 2 mil. It's not a necessary thing, but pretty much everything on this up top here, I'm going to go over it while I'm talking, is free or extremely cheap on the exchange. And I know extremely cheap subjective. You tell somebody something's 1 or 2 mil EC and they act like it's the end of the world. It's really not. You just got to do a little grinding, put some time in the game. It's not hard. Starship Trades here. Emergency weapon cycle. That's for haste. Supremacy. For boosting my power levels. Cold-hearted. That's for my debuff. That's why I can probably get away with running Omega like I am, and still be able to, be comparable to what I've done on the last couple builds of these TOS builds. Improved pedal metal. Again, people make fun of me for using it. I love it. I'm always moving. I'm not really much of a sit and park and shoot type of guy. And then obviously invincible. Advanced targeting systems for crit severity, precision for crit chance, chrono capacitor array. Again, I use this because there's always like a 1 or 2 second little bit of time where Oxtabat isn't up and working. So I use this just to get cooldowns quicker. You could take it off and put something else on. I just like it on there. So torpedo with pre-fire sequence is a must-have if you're running torps on any boat. It gives you a nice boost to your torpedo damage, basically. I love it. And then tactical advantage. Again, people have asked me why do I use it. I see big numbers from it. After like things start hitting below 50%, you just see the numbers start climbing up. You can test it out, check it out for yourself, see if I'm wrong. And these guys right here. The bubble for shield heal, quantum singularity manipulation, it kind of helps, well, yeah, it stealths you out so where you're not aggroing so much, but it's mainly used for the EPS part of it that boosts the anti-time entanglement singularity, the refracting tetragon cascade, and then you got your deploy sensor interface platform. Again, this is to help negate threat off of you. Alright, now to my seating. I'm using a Nausicaan here for the piracy, 2% damage. Romulan SRO, and then another engineering. I believe this is the Credum that gives a cooldown to engineering abilities, but it's not needed on this build. It's the only one I have technically at the moment that's got the stuff on it that I need. And then Mr. Potato Head, his name changes here and there and stuff like that, but this guy has also got the 2% pirate trait. He's free from one of the Delta missions, I believe. I'm running 2 of the projectile weapon officers. These give a cooldown to my photon torpedoes. Like if you're watching the video beforehand, you'll just see them just keep launching out. It's amazing. The emergency con officer, this is a must-have. I suggest it for like 95% of the builds out there. Every time you hit emergency power to engines, it puts your evasive maneuvers down on cooldown immediately. Here, you'll see here in just a second. See, takes it down. Zip around the map and get left to right on ISA or wherever the heck you need. So you're just always flying. This build is basically speed tanking in a weird way. And then my 3 technician DOS here for Oxtabat cooldown. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Please think about subscribing. YouTube recently has done some shady stuff to where basically if anybody monetizes, they have to have at least 1,000 subscribers and a crap load of views. I got the view thing down, I just don't have the subscribers, and you know, you might ask why would I care if you get subscribers or make money off this. Basically, anything I make off of YouTube gets folded right directly back into STO. Helps me buy new ships, gear, etc., etc. So by supporting my channel, subscribing, you're supporting me, which is in fact supporting the game and keeping me going and making videos. So I would appreciate if you could. If not, I understand. Have a good day.